Hello and welcome back to the TLDR News Podcast, and more specifically, welcome to our special World Leader Leaderboard Special Edition. I'm joined today by Ben Blissett.
Hello.
Rory Taylor.
Hello.
And Zach Michaelis.
Hello.
The full crew.
The full crew.
First time in a while.
It's the first time in a while for the least consequential episode in a while. Basically what's happening here is that as of next week, we're moving the TLDR News Podcast onto the TLDR UK channel and the TLDR Global channel. So there will be 2 episodes a week. On Tuesdays, you'll get a global episode on TLDR Global, and on Thursdays, you'll get a UK episode on TLDR UK. The format is staying the same. We'll still be doing the World Leader Leaderboard, etc. But we are moving it and splitting it into 2 separate series on 2 separate channels. If you're listening to the audio feed, nothing is going to change. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll need to subscribe to TLDR UK and TLDR Global to make sure you see the podcast there. Because we're moving it though, we wanted to address the leaderboard in the room and make some changes, add some people, take some people off, and adjust what this is looking like. Because realistically, new people are going to be seeing this leaderboard for the first time soon. And you're very familiar with the chaos that's gone on here. But we wanted a minute to reconsider, realign, and adjust the positioning.
Maybe clean it up a little bit.
Clean it up a touch.
Yeah.
Also, just a warning at the start. If you're listening to this, no guarantees how enjoyable it's going to be. Hopefully it will make some sense. But there's other good podcasts out there. So feel free to skip this one and come back on Tuesday for the first episode.
Alternatively, just watch the episode on YouTube.
That's an option too. But if you're busy, if you're driving, don't do that.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Anyway, here's how this is going to work. On the board, we've got a bunch of people that have been added over the last few months, and we're going to run through them one by one to assess, firstly, do they deserve to stay on the board? Because there's some questionable inclusions on this list. And secondly, do we desperately want to move them? How this works is that if at least 3 out of the 4 of us agree to move them, we can move them 1 position up or down. But we need at least 3 out of 4 to agree to a move.
Sure.
Once we've run through the entire board, we will then add a handful of new people that are important enough they ought to be on here, but have never made the cut before. So we're going to run through all the existing ones, then we're going to do the new ones. It's 3 out of 4 to remove someone and also to move someone at this stage. You can only move up or down 1 place. Finally, bonus rule, once in this entire process, each person is allowed a veto, which allows them to unanimously make a decision on anything, whether that's a move up or down or a removal. To activate your veto, you push the button in front of you, but you only get to use it once. Are we ready?
Yeah.
Wait, so your veto is just to prevent a movement?
Or to enforce a movement
Okay.
or a removal.
Okay.
You can do any one thing with your veto.
Sure.
Before we get going with the leaderboard and get properly into the podcast, I just wanted to let you know that this episode was brought to you by our newspaper, Too Long. Now, you've almost certainly heard me talk about this before and tell you it's a 32-page newspaper full of content that we've written exclusively for Too Long. It also features a ton of other articles written by our favourite creators from across news, education, and entertainment. Now, I'm letting you know about this again, even though you almost certainly know that it already exists, because this week only, exclusively for podcast viewers, we're offering 30% off the standard price. That means that if you use the code TLDR Podcasts, this week only, you can get 30% off the newspaper. And if you're ordering from most of Europe and definitely the UK, you'll be able to get this copy before Christmas. So if you know another TLDR viewer or a TLDR fan, then this could be a great gift for them or even just yourself. It's been really exciting to put this product together, and we only have a certain number left. So if you do want a copy, and if you want to be one of the people who's tweeting us, letting us know how much you've enjoyed it, then be sure to check out Too Long and purchase a copy on our website. The link is in the description, and the code is TLDR Podcasts. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode.
Okay, let's start in the best people. So we have no one on the very top tier. Second tier down, we have Donald Tusk first. Are we keeping him on the board?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. That's fair.
Leader of an important European country.
And are we happy with his positioning?
I don't think much notable has happened, so I think I'm happy. Yeah.
He's won.
Yeah.
He won an election recently. He's doing well. Next up, Keir Starmer, staying on the board.
Yeah,
Obviously.
Yes.
Does he stay where he is?
It is a bit telling that we are so keen to keep Starmer on.
Well, it's the next Prime Minister.
Yeah. Poor Tusk, who's actually a leader. Yeah, okay, maybe. But go on, yeah, I keep him on.
Move him?
I think he's good there. I think his polling's really good. He hasn't won yet, so he's not on the very top rung. But
Are you saving that for when he wins?
I mean, if he wins an election, I think it's fair to bump him up one.
True.
Also,
for
aren't
now-
you doing a thing at the moment about how his polling it's very, very good. The headline polling is great, but actually his personal polling is a bit mixed.
His personal polling is mixed, but I suppose the aim of being the leader of an opposition party is to try and regain power, not to be liked by the population necessarily. So if you can achieve power without being
So
particularly
you're advocating for keeping him on this
Yes.
rung. Are you in agreement?
Yeah, very happy.
I think my instinct would be to put him on there because he still hasn't won, but that's not on him. There hasn't been an election, so I'm not going to fight for that really.
I would
I like
vote
that.
to move him down as well, but it's 2v2, so he stays where he is.
Yeah.
Next up, Vladimir Putin, staying on the wall.
I mean,
Yeah.
yes, he
Yes.
has to stay on the wall.
He is one rung from the top. Are we happy with that?
I mean, no.
It's a really difficult one.
Yeah.
I'm going to disagree with everyone here. I think the format of the World Leader Leaderboard is not supposed to represent whether or not we agree with their politics.
Yeah.
It's supposed to represent how things are going for them. And I actually think there is a strong case for putting him up even one more. I mean, he's doing very well, but the tide really is turning in his favour at the moment. I think
It's true.
You see sort of like political deadlock for Ukraine financing in Europe, in specific places like Germany. You see it with the Dutch election as well, but you also see it in the US. And the White House, I think today, has said that they're going to run out of, without congressional approval, Ukraine financial aid runs out in December. And the EU hasn't got its stuff together when it comes to industrial capacity either. So we are still producing far fewer shells, basically, than we promised Ukraine at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
And the last thing is that the consensus amongst well-versed analysts does seem to be that while we're at a sort of deadlock, the balance of power is in Putin's favour. And if the war stays in its sort of attritional phase, then Russia will continue to make gains. And you see political dysfunction in Ukraine. I mean, you see infighting at the moment at the very highest levels. Can't remember, what's the land commander called? Is it...
I'm afraid you can't look at me for that one.
He did a piece
Oh,
in
Zelensky?
yeah, and he did a piece in the in The Economist where he described it as a stalemate, and Zelensky almost immediately hit back, and there's clearly a sort of internal disagreement about how to proceed.
I suppose it just depends where you're comparing to, because if you're comparing to 2 or 3 years ago, then he's doing pretty badly in terms of he's turned his country into a pariah state, and he's still not winning a war that he expected to win within a month or so. But if we're comparing to 2 weeks ago or a month ago, then
that is what the leaderboard does normally compare to. It's normally compares to last week, and I feel like things are getting better and better for old Putin.
But it just feels like the baseline expectation for him seems a lot very different to everybody else.
Again,
he's
but
still losing a war
that is how he's not losing the war anymore. That's the main thing.
Okay.
He's gone from losing a war to probably, again, this is consensus amongst well-seasoned analysts, it's not necessarily the truth, but to winning a war. He's gone from losing a war to winning a war, which is good. And I think also the other thing is that the war in Israel has been good for him because it has ruined the West's reputation amongst the global South, and that is diplomatically important. And it's also strained America's sort of like arsenal of democracy. I mean, America is now plausibly basically fighting 3 proxy wars. You've got Taiwan, where you've still got American aid flowing into. You've got Israel, which doesn't really need aid, but it's still supported by America, and also America's using its military to deter escalation in the region. And now you've got Ukraine. So I think things are, of course I agree that actually compared to let's just say 10 years ago actually, things don't look great for Putin. But compared, as the global leaderboard normally works, compared to a couple of weeks ago, things are looking pretty great for him.
Sure.
I think I'd be happy to keep him where he is.
Let's do a vote.
Moving him up, but
I'll
Ben,
take
are you saying down?
I would have voted to move him down one rung, but I agree that I'm not going to have support.
no
for that.
consensus.
I suppose that's
move on,
still-
I guess.
Yeah.
I
What
would
you have
vote.
voted
I
for?
would vote to keep him where he is. So
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
I see your point though, but I think he is already pretty high. For him to be the standout winner on the board,
Well,
I see
just-
the case.
yeah.
But I see the case.
Go on,
I mean,
go
if he
on.
takes Ukraine, then he's had a very, I'll switch my position, but until that point, I
It's
think.
very, very magnanimous of you, Ben.
Yeah, but yeah.
Okay. let's move on.
Next up, the Spanish Prime Minister.
Pedro Sanchez. I think he's fair to stay there.
I
Yeah, I
think
think
He,
so.
Yeah.
he
he's
won
Prime
recently.
Minister, yeah,
Yeah.
against all odds.
Well, I didn't really win.
Remained Prime Minister.
Yeah.
So I think it's a fair place to be.
Sadiq Khan, London Mayor.
I could take him off. I don't think
Ooh.
he's sufficiently important to be on the board, and I think maybe we'll have him there until the mayoral election, but post the mayoral election, not enough stuff's going to happen with him. I just think it's a bit, this is a world leader.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
leaderboard.
true.
Sadiq Khan is not a world leader.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree to an extent, but I do think with the
You want UK for
no,
that.
just because the London mayoral election is coming up, and I think he's known.
But
It's not
we
he's
don't
an
have,
unknown person.
we don't have the mayor of New York or the mayor of Paris or like.
Yeah,
Sure,
and
but I
his
agree.
dad on the list.
Yeah.
I agree. I suppose the we're in London is
We have a
so
bias,
great.
a
Yeah, we
natural
do have a
bias.
It would have been fun to have Eric Adams on the list, by the way,
Yeah,
because
he's
he's having
kind
a
of
torrid
chaotic guy.
time.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, I see where
Yeah.
you're coming from, but I know that this is about to go to a vote, and I won't be in agreement. Is all I'm. That's where we're at.
I'm happy with keeping him until the mayoral election.
Yeah,
I
that's
agree,
basically-
it's an
after
odd
that, we should
exception,
get rid of him,
but
yeah.
I'm happy to keep him until then.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, if we keep him, I think he should be moved down one.
Oh,
Because,
compromise.
I mean, that's still like doing well on that.
Yeah,
level.
still good.
He's not like he's doing well, I guess.
Well,
polling wise.
He's not doing
polling-wise,
Vladimir Putin well.
Yeah.
Polling wise, he's twice. He's
not
in
winning
the
a
50%, and Susan Hall's on 25. Like polling wise, he's doing
Yeah,
exceptionally
but I
well.
just feel like to be on that rung, that's just to be polling ahead when
But-
you're an incumbent. Like
I think the
I don't
symptom
know.
of this is a symptom of the fact that you just don't consider the mayoral election as important as running a country. Do you know what I mean? Like he's doing
Yeah.
very well for where he is, but
Yeah.
you're right. It feels a bit weird to have him on the same tier.
Yeah, okay.
as
I
all
can
the
I'll
others.
move him.
I
I
will
vote
move him down
move
as
him
well.
down.
Then, yeah. I'll,
and then
I'll
when
get
he
with that.
wins, if he wins, we can move up.
Yeah,
And,
this is-
and
this
then
is-
he gets 1 week wherever he is, and then off.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sure.
And he
The
comes.
first movement on the board, Sadiq Khan is moving down a rung.
But he's still in the net positive.
He's still doing okay.
Yeah.
What would you have voted down as well?
Me?
Yeah.
I did vote down.
Oh, you did
yeah,
vote,
yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
cool.
Next up, King Charles.
Get,
Get
off the
rid.
board.
Get him off the board.
Get him off the board.
Get him off the board.
Wow.
Sorry, our lord, but I just can't have him.
He's on the back of the board.
When a
Well, that's the
Caribbean
knighthood
nation
gone.
leaves, ditches the monarchy, we can put him back on.
Yeah, I don't mind that. But yeah.
It's not looking good for William either, really. Is it?
Oh no.
Yeah.
Next up, Marine Le Pen.
I'm also going to vote taking her off. I think we can't have. I mean, she's an important politician in her own right, but the election's until 2027.
Yeah.
So what
Yeah.
we're going to have her on just doing background stories about it? No, she got
Agreed.
to go.
We would keep, if Labour win and we get a new Tory leader, they would stay on the board, right? Even though they'd be miles away from an election, that's just the loophole for Britain.
Yeah.
I mean,
It
if
has to
Sadiq
be,
Khan's
right?
there, yeah, of course, I agree with that.
Okay.
But I think
We in agreement? Le
I'm in
Pen's off the
agreement.
wall?
Yeah, get
I
rid.
don't think I agree, but I just think if we've got Sadiq Khan,
Make it
not
nice.
having. Well, I think
Yeah.
there's definitely a case for her to be in the top half of the wall because of
Mhm.
successes she's had this year.
Yeah.
But I just think as the person who's polling in first place consistently to be the next French president, it would be weird not to have her on the wall when we've got. I know Keir Starmer's there because the election's next year, but Sadiq Khan being there and taking off Marine Le Pen, I don't know, feels strange.
again, I think the issue here is the Sadiq Khan thing.
Yeah.
We can't use Sadiq as
The Khan
the
problem.
threshold, the Khan problem.
Yeah.
We can't use him as a sort of threshold for like viability because otherwise
Yeah.
we're going to keep everyone. I mean,
That's fair.
I think that doesn't. Otherwise, we'd have people like Friedrich Merz. for example.
Who else would you advocate for as an opposition leader? Like we've also got
That's
two
what I'm
Americans
saying.
on here. That makes sense. Two Brits on here, plus Sadiq Khan. That makes a little bit of sense. Are there any other opposition leaders you would include?
Do you mean in the world?
In the world, yeah. I'm just wondering why Le Pen is making the cut when a German
That's a
equivalent
fair
might
point.
not.
Friedrich Merz
That's
is
a
a
fair
good
point.
example.
Yeah.
Like, we
Yeah.
would never have Friedrich Merz on the wall, even though
Yeah.
he is almost guaranteed to be the next Chancellor of Germany.
That is a fair point. I suppose if we take her off, if she does something wildly
You can chuck her back
good,
on.
she can go back
She's
on.
already printed out.
Yeah, well,
Off
she's
she
coming
goes.
off, yeah.
I also think, by the way, on the having opposition politicians, sure we have. I mean, obviously the UK is the exception, and sure we have Trump, but Trump is not really like an opposition politician. He's a former president.
That's true.
He's not just an opposition politician.
Speaking of former world leaders, David Cameron.
I'm going to say take him off.
Yeah.
I say take him off too.
I wouldn't have, but I understand.
He's
Who
gone.
is he?
That's three. He's
Yeah.
gone.
Oh, this row's getting absolutely destroyed.
Yeah.
Next up, the most European-looking man I've ever seen. No idea who he is.
Old
Daniel Craig.
Christensen,
Mistaken from Mark
Ah.
Rutte a couple of episodes ago.
the Swedish Prime Minister.
Okay,
I think it's fair to keep him on.
you got to keep. I feel like world leaders
Yeah,
of
yeah.
any country
Oh, we
basically make the cut. It's the world
Yeah.
leader leaderboard.
And let's make the next one quick.
Yeah.
Trust.
get rid.
Trust.
Get her off.
Yeah.
What is this
Gert
man called?
Wilders?
Gert
Yeah.
Wilders. He's a leader of world. Well, he's not yet.
possible,
World, yeah,
possible
the
next.
world.
He's a leader of the world. From like a Bond movie,
It
definitely
does
looks
look
like he could
it,
be.
yeah.
Yeah.
Possible next Dutch leader. I
Dutch
think it's
Empire.
fair to have him on because there is the potential for movement.
If he
And-
doesn't become the next leader of the Netherlands, can we agree
To take him off.
he gets canned?
Absolutely.
Can't. But
There's
can't
some-
couldn't get canned.
Yeah.
You can't use that as a word.
Oh, that's pretty good. It's
Yeah.
an okay
It's good.
pass.
Maybe we should.
Yeah, it's a shame we didn't can Khan for that reason.
Yeah, I think the agreement on him and on Khan is it's time limited.
Yeah.
As soon as that doesn't make sense,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
they're
it might be
provisionally
like-
on the board.
It might be
Yeah.
300 days before we work out who the next Dutch Prime Minister is.
This lady.
Sarah Wagenknecht, who you put on the board, so you should.
Oh, I'm a big fan. Oh, she's the German lady.
She's
Yeah.
the German lady, and she has to go.
Yeah,
She's gotta go.
Yeah.
Minor party leader.
Yeah.
What was she doing there?
Yes.
Silly decision. Silly decision making. I just wanted to show off my knowledge from one video I'd read out.
Kim Jong Un's got to stay.
Yeah. I think so.
absolutely. Move him.
Had a great
Why
coach.
is he actively good? He had a meeting with
Actually,
Biden or something.
we forgot to decide whether we move these guys.
Ulf, I'm okay keeping there.
Because I think
Yeah.
I think he should be moved down from being in the good zone.
Ulf, Chris,
Yeah,
why?
Ulf Christensen. Basically, I don't know how far back we're looking at this kind of review, but
No, I
Sweden under Ulf Christensen has not had a good year really.
Sure.
They're still not in NATO. We did a video on the crime, the surge in crime,
True.
and also he's really having a bit of a torrid time with his not coalition partners, but the Sweden Democrats who are supporting
Yeah.
him. So I think he could easily be moved down.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm fine with
I'm
that.
fine moving
Yeah.
him into the
I
middle.
would also move him down. Yeah, his polling
Okay.
is pretty mediocre
Yeah.
as well, so I would move him down.
Gert, I think, is safe to
Yeah, I get
keep there.
surely okay there.
First
Gert
name
only
turns.
won
Oh,
quite
Gert.
recently, so
Yeah.
we'll leave him there, but he could move.
Kim.
Kim,
So
what was the logic?
the logic of him being in the positive is that he's doing a deal with the Russians supposedly to give them some munitions, and it's expected that he might get something in return.
Yeah.
It's not exactly clear what yet.
No, I think he just gets cash in return. I think. I mean,
Cash is pretty good.
Kim, honestly, North Korea is having quite a good time,
Yeah.
especially. I mean, I don't want to
Just in
say
this
it.
geopolitically.
North
North
Korea
is-
and Russia at the top of our board.
North
Yeah.
Korea is a North. I mean, again, this is not something I'm in favour of.
No, I know. That's not what this means.
It
This is
also
an
doesn't
endorsement.
reflect the reality of people who live in these countries. We should.
No, of
point
course.
out.
Yeah, fine.
Doesn't reflect anything.
Kim Jong Un is
Yeah.
having a good time.
Are you voting
Yeah.
up?
No, I think he's.
I'd like you
yeah,
to.
I'm
It'd be a fun.
I could
It'd
put
be
him-
fun.
I could
They're,
put him
um,
on.
If you push that button and bump him up, I'll respect you so much.
Their satellite worked as well. They
Yeah.
launched a
Yeah.
satellite
Yeah.
recently.
Yeah.
No.
Oh god.
Like the golden buzzer in X Factor for some terrible act.
Yeah.
So we're leaving.
I think keep him there.
I think we should keep him there.
Yeah.
I vote up.
I'll vote up. Vote up. Oh, vote up.
Actually,
One more vote and we
What's
do
gonna
it.
happen?
yeah, I'm going up.
Hey!
I remember I put him there the first
I
time.
don't like how
There was
excited I was.
Yeah,
outrage.
we're trivialising something bad here. But
outraged that he was even on the board, and now he's, yeah. Anyway,
Joe Biden.
Joe Biden.
Keep him on the board.
Yeah.
Well, he's got to stay on the board.
But he's got to go
completely.
down.
Yeah,
He
down.
does have to go down.
he's having a bad time at the moment. Even I would defend Biden's record, but
I think that's why he went up originally, is because you were like, actually the economy's doing better
Yeah.
than people thought.
I did.
And,
I think.
and now
yeah.
people have kept thinking it's bad for long enough
Yeah.
that it's like doesn't even matter, does it? Next
Yeah.
up, we have Vivek Ramaswamy in
get
the
off.
middle.
I think
Polling
he's gotta
single
go,
digits.
yeah.
He's a goon.
Yeah.
He's a goon.
He is a goon.
Okay.
I don't think that's a partisan comment. I mean, he's just objectively a goon. That is,
We need
that's
out of
consensus.
context.
It is.
TLDR.
It
Yeah.
is. The percentages don't lie.
Yeah,
Sense. Yeah.
that's such a Trumpian thing to do. Just be
Yeah.
like, everyone thinks he's a goon.
Yeah, many people
Not
are
just
saying
me,
that.
many people
Yeah.
are saying.
Yeah.
Next up,
Nikol Pashinyan.
Armenian Prime Minister.
he's got to stay. He's the prime minister.
Yeah.
The world leader rule.
I would
Right.
say,
I'm
well,
happy to
yes,
keep him.
I would say though that there are lots of world leaders, and there is a very limited amount of space on the board. I'm not.
the board can
advocating-
get bigger.
I'm just saying that just by virtue of being a world leader doesn't guarantee you a place on the board.
I think that I could take Pashinyan off. I don't imagine him moving much more. I think that basically the Nagorno-Karabakh/Artsakh dispute has been resolved in inverted commas insofar as Azerbaijan just take it back.
Yeah.
I think it's impossible to see Pashinyan surviving the next Armenian elections. It's deeply unpopular in Armenia, and I don't think we're going to. What was that? The Armenian?
Just think it's so funny that we're potentially leaving a man in the middle, just neutral, not indicating anything until he gets kicked out, and then we knock him off the board.
Is this you saying he should be
He should
off
go.
the board?
I think he should be off the
No.
board. Well, yeah, because there's no point. He's not going to move. He's just going to take up space.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Mr. Pashinyan. But
He
it's
can
not
go back
that.
on if he.
That was such a
Source to
U-turn of
victory.
I will die on this hill to keep him,
No,
to advocating
that's-
getting rid of him.
That's right.
Where it's going to end up very very Eurocentric by the end of it. Oh,
Trump.
We'll see. He's got to stay.
Yeah,
right?
gotta
surely
stay.
he's
Yeah.
gotta stay.
He's a difficult one as to where you put him as well, because you can say he's had all these legal problems, but then the flip side is he's still definitely going to be the Republican nominee.
Yeah.
And might win, and like I think that is quite a
I think
good place
neutral
for
is.
him to be.
I don't
Yeah.
mind leaving on neutral
I-
because
I
then
would-
the next few weeks we can knock him about if we need to.
I would put him up in the same reason, for the same reason, put Biden down. The polling is just very good for him at the moment. You know, the polling does suggest
Yeah, it does.
that, leaving aside questions about third candidates, he beats Biden head to head, which just does, again, betraying my biases, it astonishes me.
If we put him up, the division of the board and who is supposedly doing well is quite telling.
I'd like to see get an outsider to look at the board and try and work out some
What
kind
is
of political
indicating,
ideology
yeah.
from this.
Or even like what it shows. Like
Yeah.
it's so like it's nonsensical.
Yeah.
We were wheeling this down from the office, which is next door a minute ago, and another lady from the building and from a different office was so confused with what it was. She thought it was like our Christmas party invite list.
Yes.
And I was
Maybe
like,
give
some
out
of them.
invites to everyone in the top half.
Or we should put them on the same tables.
Yeah.
That would be a fun game,
be
like
fair,
a wedding plan.
Yeah.
of
You know that
world
thing where you
leaders.
send a random invitation to a billionaire on the off chance they give you a present? Sending a random invitation to Kim Jong-un on the off chance he sends you whatever his present is.
You banned one of those people from the office.
I
so it
have. I'm
couldn't
not going to
have
say
been,
who, but someone is banned.
yeah.
Okay, so you're voting Trump up. Yes?
Yeah, I am, yeah.
Rory?
I suppose it feels natural if we put Biden down, then putting Trump up
Oh,
kind of works for me.
I can get with him going
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
I think I like having him in neutral. It feels like a good place to have him going forward. But I do see the argument that he's doing better right now. So bumping him up does feel fair.
There's also a bit of a symmetry to it clears the board up a little bit.
Sure.
You've got
He can always-
Oh no, but
can always
Netanyahu we've
move.
not voted on yet. Netanyahu stays on the board, obviously,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Staying in neutral.
I'm happy to leave him in neutral. I think you'd have to make an argument for him going up just merely on the fact that he's still
Yeah,
in office.
exactly.
I was going to say you could make the argument for him going down, because you can see now, even people in the US, I think the Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin was starting to talk about, Israel's conduct and their strategy, or effectively having no strategy for the war. I think you can see even his strongest allies starting to
Well, I think you
become
mean
uneasy
his
with-
strongest ally, in that
Yeah.
all the Europeans have already
Yeah,
sort
that's
of
true.
turned, apart from maybe the Germans. But I think, in a way, that the fact that that's happened and Netanyahu is still
I suppose
in power
it's similar
is
to
like,
the Putin thing, where it's like there are lots of reasons why it's not going well, but he is still there.
he's outperforming expectations is the main
Yeah.
thing here. I think we can keep him in the middle. I
I
understand.
think
why
I'd
you put
vote
him down.
middle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think middle.
sure.
Okay, so
Leave
let's
him. Yeah.
move more along.
Okay, sure.
And the other two are there.
Okay,
Ron.
Ron DeSantis off the board, right?
Off the board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not likely to be the Republican nominee. The race isn't even that contentious anymore, so it's not like when we knock. Like I think when we had people like him on the board originally, we thought it was going to be like him up, Trump down, like it needs some excitement. But the Trump train just seems unstoppable at this point. So then, what is he doing on his like 15% or
It
whatever?
was ever since those shoes. That picture
Yeah.
of him in those boots, and he's been tanking.
Yeah,
I
hard
think
to
also,
argue with that.
Yeah.
Absolutely spectacular analysis. To be fair,
Yeah.
obviously we can just bring him back.
we could
Yeah.
bring him back.
If he somehow manages to
Xi Jinping,
got to keep him.
Yeah.
obviously. Are we happy with his placement?
I think I am happy with his placement. I don't think much has changed. I mean,
Yeah.
the economy is still slowing. The only notable change is probably the sort of like mild detente with the US, but I don't know how that plays on his world leaderboard aspirations.
Yeah. I think I'm happy with him staying there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Prince William.
Get him
Yeah.
off.
Get him off.
I want to buzz.
It's tempting.
He has been on this level the entire time simply because he didn't go to the Women's World Cup final.
Oh yes, that's true.
There you go.
Yeah, fair play. Off the board.
That line alone, trying to guess someone's political affiliation, is chaos.
Kaya Kallas.
Yes.
I'm tempted to remove her. Whoa. I understand why she's on. The only is there still a chance of her becoming NATO Secretary General? Is that still on the
I
cards?
mean, that's not been decided yet, so I suppose she could.
That'd be
I
a
feel
big
like
fur.
I feel like taking Pashinyan off would suggest we should take
Yeah,
Callis
I think
off.
that's fair.
Okay.
Yeah.
It does feel a
Yeah.
bit rude considering we've met her.
Why is that?
Feel like
Just
I've got
that
some
that in there,
affinity.
yeah.
She stays.
She stays.
Wow.
Jack's
Whoa.
best mate.
She
Carly
stays.
Yeah.
Next up,
Can I
Anthony
overrule
Albanese.
with I'm
You-
not
oh,
saying
you
you're going to
could.
do that.
You could
Yeah,
reverse
yeah.
my reverse. Yeah.
It's like Uno, yeah.
It is Uno rules. You can stack them.
That would
I
feel
think I
like a
would.
waste.
Yeah. I
There's
also
not-
don't want to start drama.
It would be funny though.
It would be.
Yeah.
Next up, Anthony Albanese.
I think he stays.
He stays.
Has to stay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stay where he is.
I think so.
What's his polling like at the moment? I
Pretty
could
bad. I mean,
pretty-
not compared to a lot of other people on this board. He's doing all right, but if you look at the graph since he came into office, it's been like honeymoon period, and now he's like
Sure.
kind of yeah.
I'm happy with him saying that.
I'm happy with him staying.
Yeah.
Macron.
Get him up.
Get him off
Get
the
him
board.
No, keep him on the board.
Let's get
He's
all
gotta
the French
stay, he's
people off
gotta
the
stay on.
board.
I vote to put him up just because I like him.
That's not a reason.
Yeah, it goes against
No,
the
objectively,
the
I
principle.
appreciate that he has to. He should. If we're going anyway, he probably has to go down.
He does have to go
just
down,
by
yeah.
virtue of the fact that his polling is quite miserable.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have. He can't maintain parliamentary discipline at all. But I'm reluctant to do so.
I don't think I'd move. Yeah,
widely
I mean, because this is
dispensable.
still the negative zone, and
Only
polling,
slightly though.
Yeah, I think
Like,
polling
polling
is less relevant for him than
Because he's
others.
not up for election
Yeah.
again. Yeah, but like he is essentially waiting to hand over power to
Yeah.
the far right. It's a pretty bleak place to be.
Yeah.
No, I mean just on that point, the polling always Le Pen always performs
Of course.
well
Actually, yeah.
pre-election,
Yeah.
and then whoever succeeds.
Yeah.
I think I'm very much in favour of keeping him where he is. I don't think bad polling should put you in the second to bottom. If it's like catastrophic, then maybe. But
I'm voting down.
okay, I'm voting keeping
I
where
think
he
I'm
is.
keeping him where he is.
It's going up.
The rules
We
are
can't do
rules.
anything.
Oh, that's terrible.
Oh no,
shit.
he's off. He's gone.
Oh,
That's very no.
moving him down again.
Joking.
No.
You have to have a fight on telly.
He stays in where he was.
Rory, if you put him back.
Oh no,
you
I'm
could
saving
you could
mine.
push a button and move him actually down.
Yeah, I don't.
Sorry, Zach.
I can't do that.
I can't have that.
I'm
I can't
sorry,
believe you
Manny,
didn't
I tried my
overrule my
hardest.
crazy Kajakallis decision, but you've overruled that.
Yeah.
Okay, we are on one row from the bottom, new rung, and we have Volodymyr Zelensky.
Yeah, he's got to stay on the board, obviously.
Obviously.
Yeah,
But-
the question is whether or not he can't. he can't
I
go
don't
up.
think he can drop to the bottom tier because Putin is one from the top. I feel like they should roughly mirror each other. I don't think that's a requirement, but I feel like he is not doing worse in
Let's
this
keep
than
him.
Putin is doing well in this.
Let's keep him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Stay where he is.
sure.
Next up, the Scottish First Minister,
Yusuf.
which isn't a world leader, but also kind of is a world leader.
I would definitely get him off. He's not going to be relevant again.
Yeah, so my thing, if he ends up doing better at the next election, then he might be bumped up. But other than that, it's hard to see him moving from where he currently is.
Yeah.
Which does lead me to think that it probably is best to get rid.
And also the implication would be that we need Mark Drakeford. And Mark
I
No,
don't think we
it
need to
doesn't
take
mean
from.
that. Come
yeah,
on.
I
think
love
it
Mark
does.
Drakeford. Get him on the board.
Push the button,
add
get him
Mark
printed out.
Yeah, it's so tempting.
I would get rid of him. I'm voting get
Yeah.
rid.
I also vote get rid. I don't agree that means.
Sure, fine. I also disagree that means Mark Drake.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
As
Yeah.
in you think just Scotland is...
Scotland is clearly like
I think I
More
would keep him
politically
because I
important.
think Scotland is
the SNP
very
have tricked
relevant,
you.
and you guys are downplaying the importance of Scotland, so I'm going to defend Scotland.
you keeping him on.
Well, I'm saying
voting
I would,
to.
yeah, but
Push the button if you get that
I don't
much.
feel
Go
that
on.
strongly.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I don't think. Well, this is the other thing. It's just that just because you are a world leader doesn't get you a place on the board. It's just to do with. And if they're just going to stay in the same place, then what's the point of them being there?
Yeah, that's
Which
fair.
is the argument. It's got nothing to do with the relevance of Scotland, which is why I disagree with the comparison to Wales.
Wait, what was that?
I'm saying that he's not going to move. He's just sat on. It's got nothing to do
Ben's
with
saying we should get
relevance.
rid, but not because Scotland doesn't matter, because he's not going to move,
Yeah.
and that's what's important.
Oh, I see. I think both things count.
Yeah.
And I think that Scotland isn't that important. I also just don't think that... Wait, what? Is that one?
Just so unnecessary.
Yeah.
He's already off the board. Chuck him under the bus again.
I'm just saying, I think that some of this is we are sort of like extrapolating from prior experience of Scotland, when like Nicola Sturgeon was just a big political player, but Nicola Sturgeon's like political standing was a function not necessarily, I don't think, of Scotland, but of the SNP's political dominance and her like abilities as a politician.
But Drakeford in Wales is politically dominant. Labour's doing very well in Wales. I don't think the dominance in the country.
I
think the fact that like the SNP advocate to leave the UK makes Humza Yousaf or Nicola Sturgeon, whoever, would be more relevant than Mark Drake.
Agreed.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, and also it's not a separate party,
he's
is it?
off anyway.
Yeah.
True. Okay.
Yeah.
Next up,
anyway.
the
Fumio
Japanese
Kishida.
Prime Minister.
Yeah.
Is it Kishida or
Kishida?
Kishida.
I don't know. I say Kishida,
Okay.
but maybe someone can correct us in the
I'm sure they will.
Yeah.
I think he stays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Happy with where he is as well.
Yeah, me too.
Sure.
I'll move him across.
That was quick.
Next up, Modi.
So, I think we've been harsh. I think a lot of the move down has been because he sued us, and I think that's unfair. He's definitely got to stay on the board.
Go to India though.
It was a bit mean of him as well.
It was a bit
Until he revokes
Sure,
it. I can't push the button, obviously. I wish I could.
I don't disagree with that. I just don't think that's relevant.
If I was pushing the button, it wouldn't even be to keep him where it was. It'd be to add a new layer and move him down yet further.
I know we're limited in how far we can move people, but if I were to take him and place him anywhere, I think he'd have to be in the top half of the board.
So
I
do
vote up.
Yeah.
I think he's too low down. I think
Can we vote him 2 up? Is that allowed? No,
No, it's not allowed.
Well,
Though,
unless
we
we
could
all-
vote him up and then Rory could push the button and move him up again.
Why did it have to be me?
Because
You're there with the button push left.
Oh, you buzzed for.
Yeah, and
thingy,
then he
didn't you?
nullified.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
That's not technically allowed, but I'll allow
Yeah.
it. If you want to use your buzz for that, I'll let you.
Well, I think we all vote him up, no, especially
I
because
vote
the
him up.
BJP have just performed quite
Yeah, they
well
just
in
won
local
some-
elections.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
Elections.
He should go. Obviously, he should go.
Yeah.
But I'm
Okay.
still bitter.
What was the thing? If we're unanimous, they go up 2, or was that?
That wasn't a
That was
rule.
not a rule.
No.
Okay.
But you can push your button and move him up again if you want.
Just trying to think who else I might.
There's only 2 more
veto.
people on the board.
But we've got new faces as well. Right?
Resets for that.
Oh, does it?
It does.
And
He
He's
these-
moves
going
up
up
again.
one more. Yeah.
Wait, so these reset for the new people?
They do.
Wow, the Saudi Arabia disagreement is
Yeah.
Modi's double jump.
He has double
To
jump.
be very doubled down originally, so
Yeah.
this is just resetting what was kind of an illegal move.
It just also isn't representative of like the objective standing of Modi or the
That's
BJP.
fair. Yeah.
I mean, they are just immensely popular and immensely powerful.
Also, we have had comments about how far down Modi is. The audience
They don't like-
weren't a big fan of how.
Even though they sued us.
Yeah, it's his fault.
Modi personally sued us.
Again, I think the purpose of the board is definitely.
I saw him sign a thing
You're
on
going to get sued
TV.
again now.
Yeah. If he do, I'm pushing him down again if he does. Okay, Rishi Sunak stays on the board.
Stays on the
He's
board.
next down the board. I actually think that he's possibly too low.
He's
and I
too
would
low.
move him up 1.
Yeah.
He shouldn't be on the bottom tier.
I think he should be.
I
up
think that's
1.
just a
But if
reflection of our
Schultz stays on the
UK
bottom
focus.
tier,
Yeah, and yet
they're in equivalent positions, really.
they are.
Yeah, leaders, kind of rudderless leaders.
Yeah, though equally so is Macron to some extent. But
That's not true.
I would tentatively vote up 1, but
Yeah.
I'm not. If that's not the direction of travel, I'm happy to keep him where he is.
I'm not going to vote up 1.
I'm-
I think we forget again. We've talked about this in the past, but we forget quite how unprecedentedly bad his polling is. I think it does merit going that low.
Okay, Rory.
I think.
Just can I just very quickly on the looking at all of these people. I mean, we have a lot of people. Like again, Macron is a good point, but we have a lot of people who have pretty measly polling, but none of them are anywhere near as bad as Sunak's polling.
I would say though that again we get back to the question of when are we comparing it to, because I made the argument with Putin of like Sunak's polling hasn't got worse in the last few weeks. It's not looking more likely.
But it hasn't got better. So why would we move him up?
Putin's war hasn't.
It has got better. That's the whole point. Putin's war has got better recently. Things are looking better for Putin, whereas they're not looking better for Sunak. They're looking pretty much the same. I mean, they're
But with that logic, should he not be? If it's looking the same, it should be. He shouldn't be at the bottom. Things haven't got disastrously worse in the last few weeks.
It's about whether or not we move them is about how things have changed recently. It's not about a sort of static, like, how's it going?
I
So
think
you're
I'd be
voting.
Stay.
You're voting.
I'm voting at 1. Yeah.
I honestly, I'd be happy having him in either row.
I agree. So I think he stays where he is.
Sure.
Yeah.
You need
Okay.
some kind of consensus. I have no strong feelings. So.
Yeah.
Move him across a bit.
Sure.
And then Olaf Scholz. Got to stay on the board, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I think same logic applies. Relatively neutral. See no real reason to push him
Yeah.
up if Sunak stays on the bottom.
Yeah, I think he's.
I
fair
think
to
he's
go
got to
with
stay
Sunak
where
down there.
Sunak stays.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the updated standing of the board. We've removed a bunch of people, but we decided before we started there were a handful of people that ought to be on the board that for whatever reason, news cycle, whatever else, have never been added. The hope is these are people not just important, but also likely to move going forward. We will reappraise this, let's say, like quarterly. We'll do one of these to knock it, well, every 6 months. So these people don't have to stay on forever, but the hope is that these are good additions to the board, just generally. Rules here. People can only be added to neutral, one up, one down, unless there's consensus. If we all agree that they ought to go 2 up or 2 down, they can be placed there. Additionally, you can push your button at any time to move up or down only one place from the consensus. Okay?
Sorry, Zach was eyeing me up there. I think he's worried I'm going to veto him again.
Rory, you have the people on the back of your side of the board, so if you want to randomly grab someone.
I've got a face.
Oh,
this blue tag.
Here
Here we
lucky
go.
dip.
Oh, it's Lula. Brazilian president Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva.
Oh,
there you go.
Full name.
Was
Very
good.
good Portuguese pronunciation as well, I'm sure.
Rory, where do you think you should go?
Are we basing this on the last few weeks, or is it kind of the last year?
I would
or
say
so?
the last quarter to 6 months. Like since we've been doing this board.
I feel like he would comfortably go quite well in the neutral zone.
Sure.
I mean, there are reasons to say he's been doing things well, like his goal of reducing Amazon deforestation is going well.
Mhm.
Brazil has also kind of returned to the world stage in terms of, the Gaza conflict.
Mhm.
You know, lots of people disagree with his position on it, but Brazil has been quite at the forefront of that, and other things as well. But I think his polling has slipped. I mean, he came into office on the 1st of January this year, so he had a bit of the honeymoon period, but it's kind of his approval is dipping a bit. But I think it would be fair to put him in the middle. I don't know if anyone
I could
feels
push
strongly.
him 1 up. I think I agree that the domestic policy has been like, I don't think the same mix. I think it's been on the aggregate pretty good.
Mhm.
I think it's worth saying that Lula's success last time around was driven by a very generous commodities boom, and Brazil is a big exporter and a commodities exporter, so made a lot of money off that. I think 2 reasons. One, I think that actually this is so boring, but like the macroeconomic outlook is pretty good for Brazil at the moment, again for like commodity reasons. But I think internationally, I think what Lula's benefited from is the emergence of like a non-aligned bloc. And I think Lula that's always been his politics. His politics has always been sort of like, Brazil first, not the way of putting it, he's always just been like a sort of like he just doesn't like the idea that everyone has to like fall into blocks, and he's always tried to like carve out a sort of independent, non-aligned sort of anti-competition bloc. And I think that's very much in vogue at the moment. And so I think that maybe he's benefited from that internationally. He's become sort of like one of the standard bearers for the non-aligned bloc. So I'd be tempted to put him up 1.
Into that one.
Yeah, I mean,
I could
I'm
see
happy
that.
putting
I'm
him
fine
there.
with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's put it in
Okay,
there.
let's pop him up there. Rory, who have we got next?
We have, fan favourite, Erdogan.
Erdogan.
Can't get it. There we go. Well, this will be a fun conversation. Where do we think we should put him?
Do you want to start, Zach? You've written the most Erdogan content probably.
I don't like, this is not a reflection of my politics. I don't necessarily agree that. Erdogan, I think, has had a very good, let's just say like year. I think.
Yeah.
Again, he's won an election,
Yeah.
and the election was quite astonishing. It just proved quite how savvy a politician Erdogan is.
Yeah.
He somehow kept the Turkish economy afloat. I mean, the economic consensus was that Turkey is a sort of autarkic basket case. It was going to collapse. It had to. Turkish GDP growth has been really, really strong. Inflation is slowly coming down, and somehow he's avoided the hyperinflation that everyone predicted. Wage growth has also been pretty strong. I don't know how he does it. And then also his foreign policy, at face value, is just appallingly confused and inconsistent. But it just survives. He plays both sides the whole time and somehow seems to get away with it.
He does.
And I just do think he is now really one of the longest serving world leaders. He's been on the forefront of the international stage for 2 decades. And he's still hip, I think he's massively outperformed expectations.
I would support this one.
I feel like that's maybe too strong. I feel
I
like
would go 1 up.
Yeah, but I don't know. You look on who else is on that row. The level of enthusiasm you've just displayed, the level of reasoning versus Lula, where we just kind of said, there's some reasons for, some reasons against.
I would offset it with a couple of things. One, I think that the economy, growth has slowed, especially compared to the last couple of years. And he's completely U-turned on his monetary policy, and he's put in some orthodox central bank and a finance minister who have been hiking rates quite steeply. And it's very, very possible that we'll see a slowdown in growth. And I think that seems to be the consensus. The other thing is that while his foreign policy is, I think what's amazing about Erdogan's foreign policy is quite how interventionist it is, and the fact that he sort of seems to get away with it. But his interventions have been mixed. I mean, I think Syria has been mixed. I think what are some other the arguments over the Mediterranean gas fields? I think also probably mixed. I think probably his sort of playing both sides on the NATO Russia thing. Again, I'm not sure how that's panned out. The Black Sea grain deal collapsed, and I think that he's probably realising that he's spent quite a lot of political capital on Putin and upset quite a lot of NATO, and maybe that wasn't the best move. But again, it's very hard to evaluate because there's just so much going on.
Sure.
Okay. So I don't know. I would go one up. Yeah. I think the main thing is that he's still in power and comfortably so.
Yeah.
He's not going to go away anytime soon by the looks of it.
And that is astonishing.
Ben?
Yeah, no, I'm fine with that. I think that one up makes the most sense.
I feel like this one might become quite a busy row.
Who's next?
Let's see. Ursula von der Leyen.
Rory?
Again, it kind of depends how far back we go, because I think since October 7th, since the kind of Gaza conflict broke out, I think she's had a pretty bad time. But overall, she's definitely kind of she's kind of consolidated power in the European Commission pretty well, but that has led to feuds with like the European Council, Charles Michel and others. So that's that might count against her. But also she could be favourite to be the next head of NATO, the next NATO Secretary General, which is a kind of plus for her, I guess. She's kind of got her choice. She might run to be, or she might throw her hat into the ring to be Commission President again next year, or she might go to NATO. You know, having those two options is pretty good. So
it does sort of amaze me slightly that she's like, I mean, she was not particularly popular German defence minister, wasn't it? And the sort of steps your career can take, and all of a sudden she's going to go be NATO Secretary General.
It's wild.
I mean, I think she saw some of the Merkel era austerity. The military spending was cut by like 25% in real terms, and yet now it just
NATO.
NATO. I think I would put her one down as well. I think some of her perceived success is just merely the fact that she's been the face of like the EU's newfound geopolitical agency. But I think that she has misplayed things with the Israel thing, and I think that if we're not looking all the way back to 2022,
sure, I can get on board with that. Who's next?
So just feel around and see.
Should be three more, I think.
Justin Trudeau. Don't know how he's not been on the board yet. I think he's got to go down.
Yeah.
The only thing that would offset that, I think you have to keep in mind the fact that he is a third term, whatever it is, and so like the fact that he's stayed around for so long.
But if we're doing recent months,
true.
It's not looking great.
Yeah, it's a great article on that in the Too Long newspaper.
There's also been some
written by friend of the channel and regular TLDR podcast viewer JJ McCullough.
Yeah.
If you're watching,
he would stop watching if we put him any.
I think I don't have to push the button to intervene if it goes too high.
Yeah. I think he'd do well in this row. Personally.
I'm happy with him there. Yeah. I mean, possibly one lower.
I would support one lower, I think.
Yeah.
I think we're using similar. I mean, he's not quite as bad as these two, but we're using similar logic for these two.
Actually,
to put him in the bit just below neutral row, I think is too generous.
It's fun as well. Let's get a bit of spice in there.
Go on.
Yeah,
let's put him in there.
That makes sense.
We can move him up.
Justin. Any more?
Yeah, we've got a couple more.
Should be a couple more. Yeah.
I might have to stand up soon. Ayatollah Khomeini. Iranian supreme leader. Where do we stand on here?
Where do we stand on him? Oh no.
Again, I think unfortunately, I put him bang in the middle because I think there's sort of two offsetting things. One, the fact that he's still comfortably in power despite a lot of protests, and there were rumours of further protests even a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
I think there was a similar sort of like morality police killing of a teenage girl. But I think the sense in which Iran has had a bad time, I think it's insofar as one can like really win or lose these things, I think it is losing the Hamas Israel proxy war. I think Iran has been. This was a really big opportunity for Iran to like strike a fatal blow against Israel. But it doesn't look like they've been just sufficiently deterred by the US. And sure, the Houthis are making a lot of sort of noise, and you have some sort of like proxy battles in Iraq between like Iranian-backed Iraqi militia and US troops. But in the aggregate, they haven't really capitalised on it. And it looks like, especially when you take into account the fact that Hezbollah haven't done anything, and that's actually the most reliable indicator of what the Iranian position is. You know, the Houthis have independence, which is why they're taking a different stance from Hezbollah. But the fact that Hezbollah haven't done anything does imply that Iran has basically been deterred from escalation. And I think in that sense, they're losing. I think the Israel-Hamas war will end up with Iran having lost one of its key proxy forces, basically. So I think they're bang in the middle,
Sure.
I can work with neutral.
Biden, the Ayatollah, and Benjamin Netanyahu all hanging out in the middle row.
And Ulf Christensen, obviously.
Yeah. All right, who else
It's a
have we got?
ridiculous board.
Last one.
I think there's some more.
No, there's a couple
actually.
more.
There's 3.
Are there? Oh, sorry.
George Maloney, another surprise
Oh.
face that isn't on there.
I'm going to go middle again.
Yeah, she's one where like she's still pretty popular, especially when you compare to other European leaders. But there are reasons to think that she might be having a hard time going forward.
Go on.
You know, the economy isn't doing fantastically, and also she's kind of teed up quite a lot of challenges going forward, like a constitutional reform. And other things, and obviously migration.
as well,
Migration is the main thing.
She's
Her
taking
big
a lot of flack
pledge.
from the
that
Italian
she's
right
failed.
for not getting to grips with that.
So I think balancing out probably in the middle. I don't know.
I think the upside is that she has definitely, maybe this is also a continuation of the Draghi era stuff, but she's definitely made Italy more important, and some of her policies have sort of like become consensus in Europe. I mean, migration is the most obvious one there, the fact that she's sort of leading the charge in various bits of migration policy. So I think
you're still neutral?
Yeah, I think there's sort of her waning popularity, but then on the other hand, she has become bigger. Down.
She's going up.
What?
She's going up. Why?
Here's the logic.
What?
Everyone. So I'm the one who makes a lot of the thumbnails for videos. So I spend a lot of time browsing Getty Images. You try and find a photo of a world leader with Giorgia Meloni who doesn't look like they're having an absolute blast.
It's genuinely
People
true.
love hanging out with Meloni. I don't know why. I'm not saying she's a good person, but I'm
Why are
saying
you
she's
putting
good
her?
fun.
I think she's
So I'm
getting
putting
her
her here.
No, you're not.
Oh, come on.
You're such
Sorry.
a killjoy.
Any other
Where are you
buzzers?
putting her?
Middle makes sense.
Middle.
The logic made sense. People looking like they're having fun in photos shouldn't. Yeah, no.
She had a good selfie with Modi the other day.
Great.
Yeah.
Go on, push
Put
your
them
button.
both
You
at
know
the
you
top.
want to.
I can't push for that. Next face.
Yeah, next face.
I can't push for that.
Javier
Javier
Milei.
Milei.
I forgot how many there were behind this
Future
wall.
president of or soon to be president of Argentina. I think he's got to
Well,
be
he's
in the broad positive.
Yeah,
because
you
Yeah.
won the election.
he went from a massive outsider to the president.
Another thing I think is really interesting is that normally in those sort of elections, the markets react really badly. I mean, Liz Truss is our like, domestic example. The markets actually reacted pretty well to Milei. I think is it the peso?
Yeah.
It's strengthened on the news against
So
the
he's
dollar.
getting rid of it, isn't he? He's dollarizing.
He is
theory.
dollarizing, which he probably isn't dollarizing immediately.
Okay.
He has to find lots and lots of dollars first, which is going to be
Check
very
down the back
difficult.
of the sofa. Yeah.
Also, I know we're not even done yet, but it's so funny to me that we whittled down the list and it's already looking busier, and the distribution is almost exactly the
Yeah.
same as before.
I think it looks cleaner actually. We had more clumped up in the middle before. No?
Yeah, I don't know. Slightly, maybe.
We've got one more face. I can't quite see who it is.
I know who it is.
I know who it is.
Oh, I know who it is. It's going to be like another half an hour of debate about where he should go. It's Mohammed bin Salman, Saudi Crown Prince. So, who wants to argue with Zach about why he shouldn't go up?
Hey,
I'm making.
I love the assumption.
Yeah.
Zach's got a button, so it doesn't really matter
Yeah.
what any of
So
us
does
say.
Rory.
but the inside joke here is that I am generally, I think basically that the Saudis play a good geopolitical game. I think there's actually, so in normal times, I would put Saudi Arabia up. I think the really good point of comparison here is comparing the last Arab-Israeli wars in the 70s with how things are going on today. Back in the 70s, Saudi Arabia is not a particularly rich country, nor is it the leader of the Arab world. And, basically that's Egypt, and Egypt is the sort of leader of Arab nationalism at the time. Saudi Arabia has gone from, because of oil revenues, but they've been managed well. Saudi Arabia has gone from like a relatively undeveloped country to one of the most developed, one of the wealthiest, and one of the most politically powerful countries in the Middle East. And it almost definitely the leader of the Arab world. I think that's fair to say. And I think that MBS had real success with developing this sort of like wider Middle East peace policy, which was the normalizations with Iran, which is what he did last year. And then begin Abraham Accords negotiations, so normalization agreements with Israel. And I think he was making real progress on that. But I think that the Israel-Hamas war has been sort of like mixed in that respect for them, because it has definitely scuppered some of the progress that the Saudis made. It's also created this sort of like elite versus public tension within Saudi Arabia over how to respond. So Haaretz has been reporting that almost all Arab leaders are privately telling Israel to keep going with their war because they want to get rid of Hamas. But basically the consensus amongst the Arab publics is the opposite, which is that they see all the social media videos of, and they see the accusations of like genocide, and they are staunchly pro-Hamas and anti-Israel. And that's going to be a difficult one for the Saudis to manage. I think they will manage it. I think they'll just basically wait for a while and then restart normalization negotiations with Israel. But the other reason I think they're failing is they have proved remarkably unable to manage oil prices. And so because when Saudi Arabia buys up all these like football players and sports teams and like makes all these weird investments in massive cities or whatever.
Also in the newspaper.
That is all part of this wider project to diversify the Saudi economy. And one of the ways they want to do that is to stop releasing so much oil, to keep oil prices structurally high, so that they can maximize their oil revenues in the long term and invest that all into these new industries and basically reduce their national reliance on oil. And they have tried, and they've cut production and tried to encourage other OPEC plus members to cut production. They got the Russians to do it eventually, and I think they got the UAE to do it as well. But oil prices just haven't gone up. Oil prices currently trading in the mid-70s, $70 a barrel, which is, in real terms, it's just not that high. And even though there is currently threat of disruption via the Persian Gulf because of the Houthis who've been attacking like transit ships. You had the Israel-Gaza war and the fact that the Israelis turned off the gas taps and the gas fields off the Gaza coast. And all the related potential disruption to oil. Oil prices haven't really gone above like 90 something. And I think that the Saudis are finding that really difficult, and they've just had the most recent round of oil cuts. And basically the Saudis said to everyone, please can we keep cutting? We want to keep these prices nice and high. And there was a whole lot of dispute within OPEC. People were saying like, well, what do we do? You guys, we want revenues now, and clearly the oil cuts aren't working. So I think that's the one sense in which the Saudis have failed. And I think that's actually pretty big. I think the fact that Saudi Arabia doesn't seem to be able to control oil prices in the way that it once did. I think, by the way, this is, that in the long term, the Saudis will succeed in pushing up oil prices. I think that basically right now, this is a function of a very depressed consumer economy, especially in places like China. But at least in the past couple of months, they have just been unable to push oil prices up. And I think that puts him bang in the middle, unfortunately.
I think this probably just helps to outweigh that, to keep him in the middle. But you've obviously got, like you said, the diversification of the economy, buying up sports players and whole leagues. I mean, just this year you had the Live Golf thing.
Yeah.
They kind of forced a merger with the PGA. But also, I think Saudi Arabia just got awarded, I can't remember if it's the World Expo or something similar to that. They just got awarded one of those things for 2032, I think. So their whole project is kind of trundling along pretty well.
The only thing I'll say about that is I think that there are reasons to be very sceptical of whether or not that really works. I mean, whether or not you can really create like a domestic economy based off like what sport, like football teams and massive neon line city. Like it's very difficult to do. Like to centrally plan an economy where your revenues are so reliant on one export. It's just really, really difficult. And you basically have to become Norway, and Norway is basically the only country that has really done that very successfully, to export a whole load of oil and then turn that into an actual like thriving domestic economy. And maybe is Saudi Arabia the Middle Eastern Norway? Who knows?
You're saying maybe, so middle.
Well, I'm saying so far.
I'm going to put him in the middle. No objections.
No objections from me.
It's hard to argue with that.
There he is.
And that is the new board.
That's right.
I think that's pretty clean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks a lot better than before.
It does, but I'd like a side by side so we can remember what it looked like. I mean, we're not going to be able to react to it because it's going to be done in post.
Well, one of them was like absolutely.
Yeah, this
full
one was
and
full
dangling
DM,
off
to be fair.
I think it's a good distribution.
Yeah. Still no one at the very top though,
No.
interestingly.
Yeah, for symmetry's sake, it would have been nice to have 2 at the top.
It would have
No.
really done. We can't now, but if 2 of these went up, it would be 2, 3,
That's what I'm saying.
same,
Yeah.
3, 2.
We just need Kim Jong-un and Pedro Sanchez.
You've
to have a
both
really
got
good
button
week.
Or
pushes.
Putin to take Ukraine, as Ben said, in which
Yeah.
case
Are you trying to?
You've got button pushes, you could push 2 up. 1 each. For symmetry.
I can't button
I don't think
push
any of
Putin
those
to the top.
deserve to go right to the
Okay.
top. Yeah.
Well. Okay, so that's the World Leader Leaderboard. As we end TLDR podcast on the TLDR podcast channel, the final episode here. Join us again next week in TLDR podcast New Home. The global episode on Tuesday will be on the TLDR Global channel. The UK episode on Thursday on the TLDR UK channel. So make sure you subscribe to both of those YouTube channels. Also, if you're listening to the audio feed, apologies for the last, how long was this, Jeremy? Apologies for the last about 56 minutes, because I bet it made almost no sense. Regardless, we'll see you again next week for 2 episodes of the TLDR podcast, where we'll be adding more people, moving more people, and the World Leader Leaderboard will continue to evolve. We'll see you then.
Bye.
Bye.
Little announcement.
Lovely.